And let me offer you all a very warm welcome to this special ceremony where we're going to, over the course of the next 45 minutes or so, convert these fantastic graduands that sit before us in the hall and are arrayed behind us on the stage as well. They'll be becoming Strathclyde graduates, some of them for the second time, I have to say, so it's a great way to celebrate the day. And you're here in the Barony Hall, which is one of the jewels in the university's estate. We do many things in this hall, most importantly graduating our students, but we have special ceremonies in here, we have banquets, we have conference activities. For some of you, you may remember we've also had examinations in here, so you might have been in this hall under different circumstances, but you can relax and enjoy the day much more. It's great to have the families, friends and supporters too, because that's a very special day for all of you too, and we never forget that. It's very much the Strathclyde family. And we'll graduate you, and when you come up onto the stage and you come across here, I will cap you. And at the point where I cap you, we are conferring the degree, of course. It's an ancient ritual, an ancient statement, but nonetheless it's an important one because that's you formally receiving your degree. And this piece of furniture that I have before me, this kneeler, I've knelt on this 3 times over the course of my career, from a bachelor's degree, my master's degree and a PhD. We've changed the ceremony somewhat. We used to have graduands kneel before the Vice-Chancellor and the Chancellor. We don't do that these days. We're a bit more egalitarian about these things. So you simply come along, stand before me, I'll cap you, and then you'll receive your parchment and off you'll go. So to friends, family and supporters, and indeed classmates, you're here. It's an important and august occasion, but you're here to enjoy yourself as well. So I'm happy that you let you know your family members that you're here as they cross the stage, within reason. But you're here to enjoy yourself and make sure it's a special day. It's wonderful to have you here. I will now formally declare this congregation open, and we will now start to introduce the graduates to you. So thank you for being here this morning and enjoy the ceremony. Thank you very much indeed.
Principal and Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the University and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Doctor of Engineering in Advanced Manufacturing, Forging and Forming, Michael Thomas McPhillamy. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for Research in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, Lisa Ann Asiak. For research in the Department of Design, Manufacturing and Engineering Management, David James Connolly. Solomon Chika Ize. Alexander Frederick Holliman. For the degree of Master of Philosophy for Research in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, Peter Douglas Still. For the degree of Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering, Benjamin Ian Ashton. In Design Engineering, Aditya Hemantral Deshmukh. In Digital Manufacturing, Tanyalak Sangdin. In Global Innovation Management, Shrejans Rohan Pandavadan. Shalin Shaji. In Mechatronics and Automation, Iberedem Emmanuel Akpan. Chinmay Ulas Chaudhary. Deutz Vinelda de Sousa. In supply chain and logistics management, Naemeka Uguchogu Wagwu. Ashish Gautam Wag. In supply chain and sustainability management, Sadia Siddiq Riya. In systems engineering management, Shubham Bapusabi Dawade. For the degree of Master of Engineering in Biomedical Engineering, Madison Ronan Ashbury. Olivia Louise Bolland. Town Baus. Alexander John Kasky. Kirsty Sarah Connor. Callum Cormican. Abby Elizabeth Dyer. Adam David Dempsey. Swavra Farsia. Grace Fleming. Zornica Antonova Ilieva. Victoria Jesionek. Thomas Johnson. Fatima Casaminia. Cameron McLean. Michael David Maggiore. Iona Gifford Orr. Jonathan Robert Reynolds. Siddharth Sasi. Katie Louise Tweedle. Vanessa Espasova Vladimirova. Molly Moon Ji Yao. In product design engineering, Rose Mackenzie Allen. Patricia Alonso Cunningham. Caitlin Cadden. Nicola Susan Craig. Miguel Crow. Nicole D'Angelo. Thelma Nenje Ejikeme. Zoe Melissa Garner. Zara Francis Hall. Mark David Howard. Laura Ellen Jex. Tess Jones. Joseph Kearney. Lauren Nealon Keith. Daniel Kelly. Finley Thomas Joyner MacDonald. Harris Blair Maxwell. Lucy Daphne Osturk. Stuart Ian Roddick. Jacob Ian MacArthur Ronald. Fergus Rule. Jack Frank Rutherford. Laura Saunderson. Ellen Claire Taylor. Kerr Robert John Thompson. Morven Emma Glenn Thompson. Benji Yu Wang. Rachel Louise Ward. Philippa Helen Watkin. In production engineering and management, Viti Peteri Laudo. In sports engineering, Hamish Finley McAdam Brown. Aidan Carlin. James Alistair Dougal. Seamus Duncan Mackay. John MacLeod. Nicole Seda Montagu. Andrew Robinson. Callum Andrew Scott. Natasha Shaw. Fraser Cut Strahan. For the degree of Master in Science in Product Design and Innovation, Jonah David Jones. Vidalai Flego. Francesca Damilola Gonzalo. Marco Morrison Gavazzeni. Kieran Alexander Gunn. Rebecca Elizabeth Lamb. Sophie Mackenzie Smith. Bethany Vari Wilson. For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering in Biomedical Engineering, Jessemin Adjurek. Luis Fisher Dinelli. Tyrone Dunbar. Argawan Kashray. In Manufacturing Engineering with Management, Connor Macbeth. In product design engineering, Abderrahman Abubakar. Henry Anthony Peter Edwards. Megan Aileen Fox. Cameron James Allen McAllister. Rudy Poole. James Alistair Rayfield. Emma Waugh. Melissa Wills. In sports design engineering, Tyler James Downs. Andrew Gallagher. Ewan Haggerty. Angus Harold. Hussein Hosabri Doxello. Sean McLean. Jonah Archibald Templeton. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Prosthetics and Orthotics, Raya Rashid Mohammed Al-Hasni. Ahad Abdulaziz Al-Juadi. Rahaf Hussein Mohammed Jawad Al-Lawati. Fatima Ali Al-Nasir. Jihad Nasir Said Al-Zabi. Zainab Ahmed Mohammed Al-Saghdali. Michaela Louise Anderson Waters. Elliot Joshua Edis. Sana Mohammed Gulong. Mia Fiona Graham. Rahma Ibrahim. Millie Ann Jackson. Gwilym Duffy Gurongwi Jones. Mia Isabella Kidd. Karen McAleer. Holly Catherine Miller. Cara Elizabeth Muir. Struan Angus Oliver Jones. Max Robinson. Catherine Amy Rutherford. Rona Samfire. Carmen Beth Story. David Robert Tate. Alexander Peter Timms. David Wong Sing Yi. Robin Sarah Walker. Emily Rebecca Wybrow. Morgan Samuel Bering Wisby. In Product Design and Innovation, Andrew Adam. Mohammed Abdul Qadir Al-Basri. Christopher Barrett. Ewan William Bullock. Alexander Dixon. Ocean Doherty. Bramford Edgar. Kieran Michael Ficken. Angus Fraser. Ross Robert Gray. Yuan Crickshan Kay. Rolf Chemoiwa Kihara. Melissa McIntyre. Luke Joseph McKee. Andrew James Robert McDonough. Dion McCrory. Chloe McKell. Jade Quinn. Mark Riley. Miran Munir Alam Siddiq. Finley Thomas Stewart. Matthew John Trevor. Jude Weir. David Williams. For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering in Product Design Engineering, Alexander Yuan Trainer. For the degree of Master of Science in Mechatronics and Automation, Ashish Srinivasan.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give the class of 2024 a big round of applause. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and now to all of you, our Strathclyde graduates, let me reiterate our warm welcome to this fantastic ceremony, a day that none of you will forget, because it marks the successful conclusion of years of hard work, and now you've graduated in front of your proud families, your friends, supporters, and of course, your classmates. And today we welcome visitors from across Scotland, from all across the UK, and of course from a wonderful international community. We're delighted to see every one of you here to join in the celebrations today. Importantly, as you reflect on your recent studies, Strathclyde is an institution where freedom of thought is valued and encouraged. We're a place that seeks to be both tolerant and inclusive, and where people of diverse national, cultural and social backgrounds come together to enjoy a Strathclyde education and a shared student experience. Because at Strathclyde we all benefit from the value and the warmth of having around 130 different countries represented across our staff and students. And ours is a socially progressive community, one that seeks to be an exemplar for modern society because we're plural, we're multicultural, and we try to be enlightened. It's our responsibility, and graduates today, it's your responsibility to continue to challenge unacceptable practices, including by those in power, by using reason and by exemplifying the best features of modern society. And of course, we do all of that in the knowledge that, sadly, once again, we're experiencing war in Europe because of Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. We're witnessing the horrors of the conflict in the Middle East and the humanitarian disaster in Gaza. And there's never been a greater need for a new generation of leaders that are professional, ethical, and empathetic, with a commitment to tolerance and a sense of purpose, namely graduates, people like all of you that are graduating today. And remember, democracy is precious and it's hard won, but you're graduating at a time of political upheaval and uncertainty, not just in the UK, but across the globe. And this year, elections are taking place in 65 different countries. Around 2 billion people, but a quarter of the world's population, are eligible to vote, including here in the UK. So I encourage you, graduates, to make sure that your opinions and your voices count in the ballot box. But of course, back to today, most importantly, we're here to acknowledge the fruits of your hard work, the learning that you've built up, and the successful completion of your degree courses, because these are now your passport to making a full contribution as you journey into your career and to society as you make a mark in those you work with and work for, in spite, of course, of the flux and uncertainty we currently face. It's not about risk management, it's about thriving in the face of uncertainty. Of course, you're graduating in a very special year for the University of Strathclyde. Whilst we were founded in 1796, we're actually celebrating our Diamond Jubilee anniversary year, marking 60 years since the award of our Royal Charter by the late Queen Elizabeth II. This mace that you see on the stage was awarded at that time, recognising our transition from the Royal College of Science and Technology, which we were, and before that Anderson's Institution, to become the University of Strathclyde. And we were the first university to be established in Scotland for almost 400 years. And know this about your place, we are the 8th oldest university in the UK. You might recall that just about 2.5 years ago now, in November 2021, Glasgow hosted COP26, where the world came to Glasgow, and Glasgow presented itself to the world during the summit of the world leaders that came together to agree measures to minimise global warming and climate change. And that challenge still lies before us. But during COP26, we were proud to have Strathclyde very much playing an active part in all of that. I had the privilege of engaging with John Kerry, who is still the special presidential climate envoy for Biden. Michael Bloomberg was here in the city, and I met with him with colleagues in the city chambers. A fellow electronic and electrical engineering graduate, I should say, but renowned for being a business magnate as well as being mayor of New York. But we had the highlight of hosting former President Barack Obama here on our campus for the thick end of half a day. And he came here to engage with young people and activists about the critical role that your generation has to play to deal with some of the challenges that my generation have left you to navigate. Now, Barack Obama came here rather discreetly for the purposes of security, but through the powers of social media, his arrival didn't go unnoticed. So by the time they actually left us, there were several hundred people waiting to say goodbye to him, and they thank him for being here. As he left our Learning and Teaching building, he pivoted on the steps before he went into his vehicle, and he shouted 2 words at the gathered crowd, and it was these: get active. And I repeat his words to you today, graduates: get active. Get active in your careers, what you choose to do to make a difference in your personal and professional lives, and go ahead and apply yourselves for the benefit of others. I was brought up here in the city of Glasgow, just on the other side of the Clyde, in a sunny hamlet called Govan. And that town's well-known motto, certainly known to those that come from it, is nihil sine labore, or nothing without hard work. And that certainly was true for my father and my 2 brothers. They worked in Fairfield shipyards. They worked hard, and they gave me an opportunity, along with my mother, to come here, the first in the family to go to university. So I try to embrace that ethos every day. And I would recommend to you that you take that approach. You're highly accomplished, you're smart, you've got ambition, but never forget the magic element of hard work and application. Because today you've become Strathclyde alumni, and you're the latest of the university's torchbearers, just like those from many generations of graduates that have gone before you. And with all that you've now successfully come through, I'm sure that you would agree that you couldn't have done this without the backing and encouragement of the community of supporters that have been around you. And it's fitting that we acknowledge their part in the successful completion of your university studies. The graduates, and indeed the university at large, owe them a great debt of gratitude. So, graduates and university staff, please join with me in saying a big thank you to those in the hall that have helped these graduates through their journey. Thank you very much. And for our excellent staff too, today is a very, very special day, because ultimately your success is their reward, because Strathclyde has worked hard to provide you with a high-quality education and a first-class university experience for all of our students, regardless of background. So, graduates, families and friends, please join me in saying a big thanks to these excellent academic staff. So as you leave us today, as well as the happy memories that you take away with us today, please remember as well, I mentioned earlier, we were founded in 1796. We're now 228 years old, although I still like to think of Strathclyde as a 200-year-old start-up organisation with that same sense of entrepreneurship, drive, excitement and purpose as we had at the time of our establishment. And throughout our history, Strathclyde has remained faithful to our founding principles, and we were established, and I quote, in the language of the time, for the benefit of all mankind. And we were the only higher education to be established in Scotland during the time of the Enlightenment, a real time of change and drive and flux, and we were named after our founder as Anderson's Institution. And we still try to drive that founding purpose, making it wholly relevant to the 21st century. Our founder, Professor John Anderson, was a physicist at the University of Glasgow, and a natural philosopher also with a deep engineering capability. And he had strong links with Benjamin Franklin, that you will have heard of, the American inventor and academic. And Franklin had been involved in establishing the University of Pennsylvania in 1751 under the motto of useful knowledge. And that inspired John Anderson. He communicated with Franklin. In fact, he accompanied Franklin when he was here in Scotland to various locations. And that idea of useful learning was born in the mind of our founder. And that philosophy has never been more relevant since our foundation over 200 years ago. So please remember that motto, useful learning, because it still defines our purpose as a leading international technological university that seeks always to be socially progressive. So for example, across our campus and in the buildings that many of you will have passed today on the way to the Barony Hall, our academics and students are developing drugs to diagnose and fight disease. For example, we have several drugs currently on clinical trials in the areas of cancer diagnostics and treatment, kidney disease, infection management and inflammatory diseases. Strathclyders are producing new low-carbon energy technologies and policy solutions to tackle climate change and establish a green economy. We are revolutionising global manufacturing technologies, helping to create what's referred to as the fourth industrial revolution through AI, robotics, automation, advanced materials and more. Our students, and we're so proud of them, continue their work in low-income countries, establishing clean water and power supplies, deploying healthcare systems in remote communities, and introducing new telecommunications infrastructure. I've been inspired by many of those in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, taking knowledge around prosthetic limb and bioengineering technologies to those in need. But we also work to inform public policy in the UK and on the national economic strategies on education, health, energy and innovation. And down in George Street, we have our Technology and Innovation Centre, our tech building. If I quote another American, Thomas Edison, he called his technology teams and his laboratories his inventions factory. Well, TIC has become our innovations factory, driving again and help to reshape the Glasgow and the west of Scotland economy as we look to work in medtech and fintech, space technologies, as well as renewable energy, life sciences, pharmas, and much more. And we became very distinct in that we established Scotland's first innovation district here in the city, the Glasgow City Innovation District. And around us, and we're just about at the epicentre here in this building, there are about 1,600 companies, many of whom have grown, many more have been attracted in here because of the research capability and the talent of our institution, working in a whole range of areas, including AI, 6G communications, medtech as well, quantum technology, new horizons, as well as working in transport, energy, and aerospace. And recently, one of our alum, Dr. Charles Wang, double graduate from Strathclyde, MBA, PhD, contacted us and donated £50 million to the university, Scotland's largest philanthropic donation and in the top 10 in the UK, to help us invest in our students, in our entrepreneurship and innovation strategy. And out at Glasgow Airport, now that we're into holiday season, as you're flying off to Lanzarote or Mallorca, wherever you're going, have a look at the east side of the runway and you'll see two large new buildings. There's one with a rather anonymous looking building with an orange serrated roof. It'll soon have some more signage. That's the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland that we own and operate on behalf of the country. And adjacent to it is the Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre, changing the way in which we manufacture using crystallization technologies and now moving into oligonucleotides. This is this new mRNA medicines that really made a big difference during COVID. So lots going on, and with our commitment to useful learning, we try to provide not only the talent that you represent, graduates, but the requirements of business and industry and the tools that they need to be more innovative, more productive, to promote economic growth. And between these two innovation districts, we're driving about £2 billion of gross value add back into the Scottish economy. Useful learning in action. But most importantly, and you all know that in here today, we provide people with the opportunity to transform their lives and the lives of their families. As I mentioned earlier, we still attract many first-generation university students to Strathclyde. And these are some of the reasons why we've had a terrific sequence of external recognition of what we do and how we do it. Every year there's effectively the higher education sector Oscars. It's the UK Times Higher Education Awards, and we're the only university in the UK to have twice won the University of the Year. We've been the Entrepreneurial University of the Year, and Sunday Times Scottish University of the Year, talking about not just what we're achieving, but how we collaborate and operate as an organisation. And this year, we were named as the Scottish University of the Year 2024, and the runner-up in the UK University of the Year, runner-up to Imperial College, that is, in the inaugural Daily Mail University League tables. Alistair McCall, who compiles those tables, worked for many years in the Times and the Sunday Times, and he was looking to establish a new league table that represented universities' impact on society and the economy. And he said about us, and I quote, that Strathclyde is the epitome of a progressive 21st century university, seeking to shape and change society for the better through the pursuit of educational excellence and social change. And, he said, there's still a place of useful learning, just as it set out to be more than 200 years ago. And this time last year in Barcelona at the EEE awards, Strathclyde was named the European Entrepreneurial University of the Year. And just last week, at a national ceremony in Aberdeen, something I'm proud of on behalf of my staff, we were named the Employer of the Year. So as well as celebrating our research, our engagement with industry, our education, this talks about how we look after our people and create the environment where they can thrive. And just last week, the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, they reviewed 2,000 universities worldwide and placed Strathclyde joint 25th in the world. I wouldn't normally celebrate being 25th in anything, but given it was a field of 2,000, this was recognising our contributions and commitment to the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, much of which is absolutely critical to get social justice, social reform, economic growth, and of course dealing with climate change. So these various awards reflect your university in a good light, and it also demonstrates that we try to continue to have a disproportionate impact. Let me reiterate, principally through all of you. This research is wonderful and important for our reputation, but the biggest contribution we make to society is you. You go out there as leaders, as change makers, as people with innovation and drive, applying your skills ethically and professionally. But Strathclyde has that role in driving sustainable economic growth. The Scottish Government puts about £1.2 billion a year into Scottish higher education. In return, we collectively drive over £10 billion worth of value back into the economy. So the university sector is not a cost, it's an investment for Scotland and beyond. And these two great departments that we're celebrating today, DMEM and BME within the engineering faculty, their achievements give me great cause for optimism, and I don't have the time to list their fantastic achievements, but I'll simply highlight a few things. In DMEM, led by Professor Anya Meyer, much going on there. The National Manufacturing Institute that I talked about in the Advanced Forming Research Centre, principally driven by the research excellence in that department, and led by Professor Brad Wynne in mechanical engineering, one of the sister departments there. And of course, a new project, Design Hopes, that were funded by the AHRC, led by Professor Paul Rogers, about greening the health tech ecosystem. Again, bringing that knowledge about design, innovation, and bringing that sustainability theme into health and health technologies. And BME, led by Professor Stuart Reid, who's on the stage with us today, Professor Will Shue, working in paediatric biomedical engineering, is leading a programme on future surgery, crowding in new technologies, materials, surgical methods, the biomedical engineering expertise that's in the department, and Andy Kerr in the Sir Jules Thorne Centre, working to bring new approaches to stroke rehabilitation. And this and much more. This is the largest engineering faculty in Scotland and in the top 3 in the UK, and driven by fantastic talent. So take that as part of the exciting context within which you should view your awards. You're now graduates of a university that places all of our students at the heart of what we do. Whilst we value excellence in both education and research, we do that also by creating strong partnerships in society at large, in civil society, as well as with the business and industry. And we are also international, and that should have been clear to you today as well, seeing those that were graduating. And the world's best universities contribute, collaborate, and compete on the world stage, and we are no different. And we have many high-quality global partners. In North America, for example, our strategic partners include Stanford, MIT, and New York University, with strong partnerships with the University of Southern California and Waterloo in Canada. In China, we have deep relationships with Peking and Tsinghua universities, the number 1 and 2 in that country, working on renewable sustainability and green technologies, and the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. And we have a raft of partnerships across the UK. In spite of the disruption that Brexit brought, regardless of your political views, we're still suffering the policy and economic ripples from that decision that was made. But the soft power of academic engagement and collaboration, mobility for our students, sharing research ideas, will maintain some of the fabric of the European project that the UK will continue to benefit from, not least of which to the university sector. And just last week, we announced 2 new exciting initiatives in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, where in Riyadh in Saudi, we've become the first UK university to have a physical presence working with the world's biggest all-female university, Princess Nouri University with 35,000 women there, and it's part of our engagement to try and drive and accelerate social change in that country by educating the women to upskill them in energy, in engineering, technology, science, business, and the humanities. And all of you, graduates, have benefited directly from being part of an international university, helping you to emerge with the skills so necessary for yourselves, of course, but also for Scotland, the UK, and the countries where you will pursue your careers, because you've been exposed to the richness and value of different cultures and traditions. So important, and always value that. And today you're leaving, of course, not only with your degrees, but please understand your obligations as global citizens. And I mentioned us presenting ourselves as being socially progressive. We don't just talk about it. We have a deep affinity with this city of Glasgow, as well as our international footprint. And we remain the leading Scottish research-intensive university for widening participation in our programmes, from young people from some of the most challenged communities in Scotland. This year, almost 1,300 such youngsters that come from the communities that I belong to came in here, with over 500 or so coming from the communities with the greatest challenges. And making a nonsense, of course, of the fact that folks say, well, if you keep your doors so wide open, you must be diluting your education quality. Not at all, because we have the joint fifth highest entrance requirements in the UK, not in Scotland, but in the UK. So we get these young people in, we keep them in, and then we launch them into their careers. And just last month, we've started our formal graduations this week, but just about a month ago, in this very hall, over 2 days, we had 500 youngsters aged 10 to 12 coming through the Young Strathclyder programme. So 15 primaries and 6 secondaries we work with. And they came here with their capes on and with their mortar boards. If I could have captured the joy in that room, I'd have a new form of renewable energy, let me tell you. But their mothers and fathers and grannies and uncles and their teachers were here. And as I was giving them a much lighter speech than I'm giving you today, as you might imagine, I wasn't just speaking to these youngsters, I was speaking to their mums and dads, the vast majority of whom had never been across the threshold of a university before, much like my mother and father, telling them this place is for them. So have high levels of ambition, have the confidence of aiming high. And whilst I'm saying that to those youngsters, I'm saying that to all of you. Have your ambition levels set to high. Your potential is enormous. Your education has been first class. Now key into that and make it happen. And I love those ceremonies in any case, as my colleagues know, because it's one of the few ceremonies where I get to look tall when I'm capping people as they come across this stage. So let me conclude. It's a great privilege for me to lead this fantastic institution with the superb support I get from my executive team, as well as from our outstanding academics, our professional services and support staff. And I truly believe that our founder, John Anderson, would recognise what we're doing today as the realisation of what he sought to establish during the Enlightenment period, namely useful learning. And I am very sure that the class of 2024 can become a vintage year. You've shown resilience, great application, and now your successful graduations. And I hope you've had a little bit of fun on the way too. That's important. We're all very proud of you. And with that in mind, and as you leave here, know that you're joining a community of over 210,000 Strathclyders out in the world. There's truly not a corner of the world that I travel in business where I don't come across a Strathclyder, typically in a post of influence, remembering their journey that started here. So whatever you do with your degree and wherever you choose to pursue your careers, please remember that truly useful learning means that you apply your knowledge for the benefits of others, make a positive impact for yourselves, and never forget the communities that you belong to. Respect diversity, value freedom of expression and thought, and reach conclusions and resolve disputes through reason and tolerance. These characterise the core values of your university. And to today's celebration, we're here to mark the outstanding achievements of those that have been awarded their degrees. On behalf of the university, let me reiterate our sincere congratulations to each and every one of you and wish you every success in your future careers. Please stay in touch with your departments and the university at large. Let us know how you're getting on, and please remember your Strathclyders now, and that's an important badge of achievement. Well done again, and please enjoy the rest of this special day. Thank you. I talked about advanced communications, 5G and 6G. We used some very basic communications from the back of the hall there, which was the thumbs up, which means that the weather is okay, which means we are now, once I conclude the ceremony, the stage party will process. Once we pass you, please, others join us. And we will meet you at the Learning and Teaching building for some refreshments, and we'll try and get round and speak to a few as well. So I hope you all enjoyed this ceremony, as we always do. Well done again to the graduates. I will now declare this congregation closed. Thank you very much. And if I could ask you to be upstanding, thank you.